I think calling them the Petrie-Coxeter polyhedra is more fitting. Before I can explain the Petrie-Coxeter polyhedra, it'll be helpful to start with an analogy in polygons. Imagine a triangle. Now add one side and make it a square. Add another side and make it a pentagon, and keep doing that. As you keep adding more sides, the shape you get starts looking more like a circle. And once you have infinitely many sides, you end up with an epiragon, which looks exactly like a circle. But it only looks like a circle because we're too far zoomed out to see the individual edges. Indeed, since there are infinitely many of them, and since the circle has a finite circumference, if we're thinking about the regular epiragon as being like a circle, each edge must be infinitesimally small. So let's zoom in infinitely far so we can see the individual edges. At this zoom level, it doesn't look like a circle at all, it looks like a line. Just like the regular tilings of the plane, this is an infinitely large shape that's also completely flat. Can you make a regular epiragon that isn't flat? Well, yes, you can. All you need to do is something like this. This is a shape which is up and enter a pattern. The technical name for this shape is a zigzag, and a zigzag is higher than our definition of a zigzag can be however wide or narrow you want. The key observation that leads from zigzags to the Petrie-Coxeter polyhedra is look closely at this square tiling. You can see that there exists a zigzag pattern. By examining timeless space, we'll be able to find infinite polyhedra that aren't flat, exactly what Petrie and Coxeter did. Tilings of 3D space are usually called honeycombs, which I think is specifically to make it so you can't call the hexagonal tiling a honeycomb tiling. All three of the Petrie-Coxeter polyhedra are derived from the cubic honeycomb. The cubic honeycomb is a tiling of 3D space cubes. By following a zigzag-like pattern along square faces of all the cubic cells, you can end up with a regular polyhedron called a cube. A helpful way to think about these is being made out of cubes that have, by arranging six of these almost cubes in a cube-like form, you get the basic building block of the mu cube. This can be extended infinitely to get the real thing. Next is the mu octahedron, which is based on the this honeycomb here to explain how it's structured from the ground up. Its cells are not cubes, but rather truncated octahedra. Truncation is this process that I like to think of as being like cutting off the corners of a polyhedron. When you truncate an octahedron, its 8 triangular faces become hexagons, and its 6 vertical pairs can create 2 different types of faces, but can be used to tile, and like squares this tiling, you get another regular polyhedron. The third Petrie-Coxeter polyhedra, which was Coxeter's contribution, is the mu tetrahedron, based on the quarter cubic honeycomb. It's derived from the cubic honeycomb, but it'll be easier to explain its structure if we talk about its second or tetrahedron truncated by removing mu and mu tetrahedron. And so there we have it, 3 complete regular polyhedra, and unlike the regular tilings, these babies have actual depth to them. You've got the mu cube, metahedron, and mu tetrahedron. This is exciting stuff. Taking these 3 Petrie-Coxeter polyhedra into account, we can now say that there are in fact 15 regular polyhedra.
Hey video creators, with Envato Elements you can create better videos. How? With unlimited downloads of millions of creative assets, all with commercial license.
Things are going to get a lot. Part 7. The petrioles. What exactly is part of it? First, you were to take a zigzag, but rather than it just going off infinitely, you fold it up into the third dimension, and you have it meet back on itself. This has some rather big implications. Like, okay, what is the area of this polygon? See, the question doesn't even make sense anymore. This thing doesn't have area, it doesn't even have an inside. This is what's called a skew polygon, and they're huge game changers. So what do you get when you try a polyhedron with skew polygons as its faces? These structures to be regular. You can move them about and deform them while define symmetries. Where would you even begin? What Petrie found was that you can actually take any polyhedron made out of normal flat polygon faces and convert it into another polyhedron or petriole of the polyhedron. Take the cubes. Let's rotate this cubes. Now, look at the cube silhouette. It should look a whole lot like a regular hexagon, doesn't it? Like, maybe from this and draw a hexagon along the edges of this cube. Of course, once you rotate, it doesn't look like a regular hexagon anymore. This is a regular skew hexagon, and it's built into the half of the cube's cube. You create a shape that looks like sometimes finding the Petrie polygon is easy. Sometimes it evolves in cases, sometimes you just gotta use the more formal definition. Start at some vertex and follow along some edge that it's by definition, this edge will always be part of exactly 2 faces. You can continue along the line you can draw, or you could turn right and follow along the face to the right. If you turn the same direction enough times in a row, in this case 5, you will end up back where you started, and you will have drawn one of the polyhedron's faces. But if instead of doing that, you alternate which way you turn each time, going left, then right, then left, then right, and so on, you will be tracing out the Petrie polygon instead. And yeah, all 15 of the regular polyhedra we've gone over already have their own petrioles, giving us another 15 regular polyhedra. You might be wondering, do you get another 15 new shapes? Well, if you take, for example, the cube and try to find it with just a normal cube, the property being a petrioles are in fact petrioles, you not just see it as an icosahedron. Here, let's have a quick montage of all of the Petrie polygons and how you can view them from a small.
Hi everyone, I'm just messing about with gravity simulations and a little solar system which you can fly up.
нормально, просто халява. Нормально, наоборот. Моя халява. Все вранье, значит. То есть обнаружил меня просто, да. Ну, очень сложно, непонятно, как сделать, да, еще на всяких компонентах игры. Может, брать надо, или все-таки кино понимает. А кто за это браться-то будет, я не знаю, если оно так. А если не так, тогда вообще как бы так. А куда оно деть? Потихоньку, помаленьку, да, понятно. Значит, может, ускорить можно как-то, ну, ладно, это сеть мурат. Вы все равно, если он маленьку, потихоньку, как-то, да, я понимаю, да. Это хорошо, он понимает, он тебя, да. Вот это что важно, да. Он тебя понимает, да. Да, вот надо, не знаю. Да, Понял. Как лечь, это что такое? За здоровье, за честь, чтобы все сразу было, знаешь, есть правда, как бы, и живет. Да, понимаю. Ну ладно, ну как бы, как этот мир запечатлеешь ты на своем труде, на деле? Да, понимаю, ну да. И сделаешь легче облегчение людям, то есть как бы, Маша, ты же художник, да, как помочь людям страдать. Ну ладно, каждый свое думаешь. Ну ладно, интересно. Сами рассказывай, всем знаю, смысл. Что-то надо хорошее, что-то настоящее, может быть. Вот, да, как бы накосячила, ладно, как говорится, да. Чтобы дети твои продолжали, что-то какой-то хитрый умысел в этом есть. Я что-то не знаю. Дело, они же как бы взрослые. Как бы при папке там все взять. К чему что-то, да. Себя, не просто там, себя вот жизнь сейчас прям живет. Не знаю, ну как, это убивает, понимаю, для убийства. Мобильник. Нет, я один эту жизнь, конечно. Свою-то в каком-то смысле, да, еще сильнее стало теперь. Да, да. Ну, а что теперь? Ну, всем годы на одно и то же, понимаете? Такой логический просто у нас всех мозги есть, как говорится, все может быть. Да. Но и это самое тоже, да. А кто знает, кто разошлись, там, цвет кожи, там, и так далее, понимаете? Теперь это черный, что ли, охота. Все равно какой-то, да, и все держится. Я не знаю, на предыдущей пару почему уничтожилась ты. Просто, да, понимаю, он тебя просто даже. Целый просто надо. Берешь посовершенно, там, ты понял. Да, прощение всегда, он я понял просто, да.